One of the worst organizations in football are the Los Angeles Chargers because they have had franchise quarterback after franchise quarterback Dan Fouts, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, but they can't seem to win games. So we have come up with this topic. We are going to each roundtable give our perfect scenario on how to fix the Los Angeles Chargers.
Pretty easy.
Kind of.
You ready?
There's one very easy move.
Very easy.
The rest is kind of difficult.
Here's the easiest move of them all. Fire Brandon Staley.
Yes.
Bring in Bill Belichick.
Oh.
You become a Super Bowl contender the very next year.
I was gonna go.
I did
Ben
see
Johnson.
he was thinking about going to the Chargers.
If you tell me with the talent that's on this team, with the Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, of course, we're talking Derwin James,
feel
one
like
of the
they fell off
better
a bit?
safeties in the game. I
In
think
the sense
Joey.
of injuries.
That's
it's
what it
hurting
comes
both
down
of
to.
them.
But when Joey's on the field, we still know that he is a great pass rusher in his own right. Asante Samuel Jr.,
Khalil Mack
Derwin
still,
James.
I think, has the same amount of sacks he had.
The thing is that the one thing that has been holding the Chargers back has been their defense.
Yep.
Who better at correcting a defense than the best defensive mind this game's ever seen, Bill Belichick? He'll come in, and in one season, this defense will be fixed up right. And then you don't have to worry about the offense because, of course, Justin Herbert's going to go out there and do a job. He's been able to do that for the last couple of seasons. The defense just constantly sells him.
I think you still got to get some receivers, though. Mike Will, they didn't extend
They extended him.
They did?
But he's coming off a season that injury.
Yes.
Tore his ACL. They need a speedster. They do need.
Quentin Johnson looks like a bust.
Dunzo. You know, defensively, like you mentioned, they need to bring in a coach, but I still feel like they need talent out there. Because like Joey Bosa's not always on the field. Khalil Mack, he's
got hurt again.
past
He
his
did just get
prime.
hurt
You know,
again.
they just let J.C. Jackson. They traded him. You know, they still need cornerback
That
help.
was just a bad organizational move.
For sure. Shout out to Derwin James, though. He's one of them ones for
He's
sure.
one of the best safeties in the
But they
game.
still need help. Like, they need to go in and just defensive coach, defensive players.
So I went Bill Belichick right up there. I had Ben Johnson as the guy I would go out and hire.
that.
I'm with Bill Belichick because Ben Johnson's going to be probably the number one name on everyone's board. But I feel like you have Justin Herbert. You probably had advantage over basically every other team that's going to have a coach opening. The biggest issue with the Chargers right now, they're in cap hell for 2024. They really went all in this season. They made some restructures, some extensions to free up money. And in 2024, they're going to be $44 million over the salary cap. Believe it or not, the Saints, once again, will be worse. I think they're around $80 million. And there's not a ton of moves you can make on this team. Moving off Khalil Mack would save you $23 million, but you take $15 million in dead cap. Mike Williams, who you just extended, saves you $20, but $12 million in dead cap. Keenan Allen saves you the most, but how can you move off Keenan Allen? He's been a top 10 receiver in the league. You could restructure some guys, Bosa, Lindsley, Derwin James, Justin Herbert, and Trey Pipkins, which would free up about $30 million in cap space, but you're still going to be over that amount. So in free agency, there's not a ton of moves they can make, but they do have all of their draft picks. They have 7 draft picks or 8 draft picks. They have 2 in the 7th round, and they have holes to fill. While receiver, I think, is one of them, I feel like you kind of have to put it to the side or maybe wait till day 3 because you're going to have Mike Williams coming back. I don't think you can move off him. Keenan Allen, although he's getting up there in age, has proven once again that he's still one of the best receivers in football. And it sucks because you used a first-round pick on Quentin Johnson. He was supposed to be the one to say, wide receiver is fixed. We are fine. But so far through 10, 11 weeks, he has not been that guy.
Do you believe in a year 2 bounce back?
It's hard to be this bad year 1 and have a year 2 bounce back.
Sure.
But there's a lot of holes on this team. Offensive line could use some work. Corners could use some work. Interior defensive line, yet again. Linebackers. There's a lot of holes on this team. But I do think, while I was talking to Ben Johnson, I wasn't thinking about Bill Belichick. It probably makes more sense to bring in Bill Belichick because offensively, now again, Bill Belichick has said this on record that he wants to work with guys that he knows and he likes. So that doesn't give me the most faith in the world that he's going to bring in an offensive coordinator that's really going to get the most out of this offense. Mm-hmm. And will Kellen Moore stay under Bill Belichick? Will he look to go elsewhere? Will he get head coaching interviews? Who knows? That's the only kind of pause I have with Belichick is offensive side of the ball, he's kind of showed year in and year out that he's not willing to take the risk and be able to make this big spring to bring in kind of a new offensive mind, a creative mind. He likes his guys. He likes Bill O'Brien and Patricia and Joe Judge and all of these guys that are kind of washed up, for lack of a better terms. But if you're able to bring in Belichick, I don't think you need to go as crazy defensively because he's such a great coach and you can kind of fix those problems with coaching.
I agree with you. I agree with Drew. There's one fix to the Chargers for a franchise that historically falls short of expectations. It does not win in the playoffs despite having franchise quarterbacks. They need to bring in a head coach that's a proven winner. They need to bring in Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick and the Patriots could part ways at the end of the season, And if I'm the Chargers, that's the first guy I'm bringing in.
Not even a question.
Even with the offensive question marks that Bill comes with, Justin Herbert with a good but not the best supporting cast over the years, the offense in terms of yards has ranked 9th, 4th, 9th, and 11th. And in points, it's 18th, 5th, 13th, and 8th. On average, you can expect a top 10 offense from Justin Herbert.
And 18th was his rookie season?
Yes, despite
Terrible
the
line.
offensive surroundings around Justin Herbert. I look at the Chargers right now. They have $94 million of their cap space spent on defense. That's the second most. Yet they are allowing the 31st most yards in the NFL. The Patriots right now are 24th in defensive spending, and they are 16th in yards allowed. Bill Belichick is spending $30 million less on his defense and getting far better production. You're telling me Bill Belichick comes to a Chargers team that has Joey Bosa, has Khalil Mack, has Derwin James, has the rookie stud Tuli, Tuipulotu. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. They have Asante Samuel Jr., who I think is a good player. Michael Davis is a good corner. This team is talented. Bill Belichick could make this defense a top 10 defense, and if you give Justin Herbert a top 10 defense, you will be a lock to be a playoff team every single year, because the number one thing holding back the Chargers and holding back Justin Herbert is that defense. So I'm fixing the defensive side of the football, not with somebody who in theory should be good in Brandon Staley, but somebody who's proven in Bill Belichick. That's the number one move I'm making.
Yeah, that statistic of Justin Herbert, that it's probably not the same now, but a couple of weeks ago, the graphic of Justin Herbert's points equaling the amount of points that the defense has given up. That's the epitome of what's going on with the Chargers. You have on one hand Justin Herbert, who is carrying this team, trying to do everything he can to put his team in position to win. And then the defense, on the other hand, that is constantly blowing it. Theo Ash put out a great video. Oh yeah,
this killed me.
This is solely on Justin Herbert. You're looking at the defense. I think they're in a quarters coverage. You have these two safeties, and one of them, just the middle linebacker, just has no idea what he's doing. Justin Herbert has to go out there, and he has to go tell him, hey, this is the coverage that you're running. Theo fucking put a perfectly set out there. How are people going to be so close-minded and just so naive to the fact of the defense is selling? When Justin Herbert did have this chance to go and tie this game, Quentin Johnston did drop the ball. They didn't even have to be put in that position if the defense just locks up and doesn't allow Romeo Doubs to have a wide-open touchdown. Listen, credit to Jordan Love and the Packers. You have to ultimately go out there and execute. I'm always about execution, and that's what they did. But there was no execution on the Chargers side of the defense.
Question. They dropped. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
Because I agree with all. I agree with you all. By the way, I have to tell you guys, I had the nastiest nightmare the other day. I really got to tell you this. No,
Broncos won the Super Bowl?
No, it can't be on air. It's a nasty.
Oh, it just hit your mind?
Yeah, it fucked me mentally. Yeah, it was like insane. But yeah, it was really bad.
Join the Patreon. We'll tell you tomorrow.
No, I actually can't even say it on the Patreon. It's like really it fucked me up mentally, and I had to go to work like angry about it.
I'm sorry about that, bro.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. So
had a couple of those.
This one's like you're all in it. It's really bad.
What do we do?
There's so many ways this could go.
It's really bad. But okay, so boom. So like the Chargers give up a shit ton of points. They give up a shit ton of yards. Do you guys really think it's primarily a coaching thing, or it's also the players? Because I think giving up that many points year by year in Justin Herbert's team, it can't just be a player thing. Like I mean, it can't just be a coach thing. It has to also be looked on the players and the star talent, because they have a shit ton of stars on the opposite end, and you would think at some point they will still be able to figure out something or get stops here and there, but it seems like every game, every waking moment, every clutch time, they just can't get a stop.
I think it's a coach thing, because ultimately you as a coach have to be able to teach what you want to implement, and your players have to know what their assignments are. And I think a lack of preparation in that area is a coach thing, because these players are the same players that versus the Dolphins last year in primetime shut down one of the most explosive offenses in football. So these players have shown they are capable. I just think this coaching is inconsistent, and they don't put them in the right position to succeed.
They've also made some like splash moves, like bringing in J.C. Jackson. We've seen New England corners be great in New England and bad elsewhere. Khalil Mack, who is statistically this year top 10 in pressures, isn't the same Khalil Mack that we saw in Chicago, and of course not with the Vegas Raiders, or I guess Oakland at the time. There's a tweet from Arjun, who we've quoted before. I think might have worked for PFF at one time, but since 2020, He worked for the Jets. Yeah, since 2020, no team has lost more games when scoring 30 or more points than Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert's out there doing a job, doing more than his job. I mean, yesterday, 2 days ago against the Packers, they had probably 3 drop touchdowns, one definite to Keenan, another one to Keenan where he makes one guy miss, he scores, and then the Quentin Johnson touchdown, which was wide open, and then Austin Eckler also fumbled within the 10, 20-yard line. So that's potentially 28 points left on the board that most other teams and most other players are making those catches and those plays, but I mean, you give Keenan benefit of the doubt because he's so great, and Eckler's been so great too, but you can't have those moments in these 3-point games, and it feels like every week the Chargers are in 3-point games.
Keenan righted his wrongs. First half, he only had 15 yards, and he
probably the hardest catch out of all of them too. The throw is insane.
Jim O'Brien goes, Stephen A. recommended Rex Ryan to replace Staley and keeping Moore as OC. What are panel's thoughts? Also, what do you think of Brian Flores replacing Staley? And that way you can keep Kellen Moore as OC. Thoughts.
I do have another Viking stat. So this is from last week, but because speaking about Brian Flores, the Vikings started 0-3. Again, this is coming into last week. Since then, their defense has been number 4 in points allowed per game, number 5 in defensive efficiency, number 5 defensive EPA, number 5 in takeaways, and number 7 in yards per game. So Brian Flores with a defensive unit last year that was the worst in the NFL. We saw Daniel Jones go out there and put up a legendary performance, has completely turned it around. Rex Ryan would be hilarious. I would love that. I'm a huge Rex Ryan fan. It does feel like he's been out of the NFL for 6-7 years now.
It's been a while.
That feels like a bit of a reach to go out and get Rex. But yeah, I think if Kellen Moore is going to stay on board at offensive coordinator, then go out and get whatever great defensive mind you could go and get.
I like Brian Flores a lot. With the Dolphins, he had a 500 record each year he was there. I think it was the right decision ultimately moving on from him, but he's had success in the NFL, and I think he deserves another head coaching spot. And he was very vocal when the Dolphins not drafting Tua and drafting Herbert. So maybe him going to the Chargers is enticing because he wants to coach him. And yes, I think he would change around the defense.
I don't love how things ended in Miami. I don't love that he couldn't build a relationship with his quarterback. So he's a great defensive mind, but you need more than that to be a great head coach. You need to be able to build those relationships. And listen, maybe he's changed. Maybe, he learned his lesson in Miami. But the last time we saw Miami, how kind of ugly that split was, I don't know if he'd be my first choice for head coach.